In this video, I want to look at how to make images pop in Lightroom, make them really stand out. And I recommend using RAW, which is the camera's own format, because you can do a lot more. In Lightroom, you can then recover where you've got white patches, you can recover them, or where you've got black patches, you can sometimes get color out of them without degrading the image. This is the image after I've processed it, and let's just do a reset here, and this will show you what it was like before. So this was the original image, very dark, quite dull and quite boring. Let's just look at these different things that we want to change. So to make images pop, we want to crop them to get really in on the detail, put some contrast to make them stand out more color, which will make them stand out more, and then add some clarity so that it's a nice clear image. Let's go ahead and do some of that then. And the first thing I like to do is crop it so we can actually get in and look at the important parts. These images need to tell a story, so I want to get into that story. Some of this top part doesn't really add to it, and also the bottom part here. So in Lightroom, I click on this crop and I'll remove some of the bottom, maybe up to here, and a bit of the top as well. Let's say going about there. I think the left and the right look okay here. That crop is okay, and this crop is okay. And I try to make the images quite square. If they're square, then when you look at them as thumbnails, you can see more. If they're very tall, then you can't see so much as a thumbnail. Let's go ahead and do some of these things. So I've done crop, and let's now do some contrast. And probably the best way is just to use the auto here. So I'm going to click on auto. And it hasn't really made it very bright. It's quite dull. So I'm going to add some exposure. I can see up here, this is the histogram. Here is the light colors and here is the dark colors, and it's quite dark. If you look here in the middle, most of it is on the left, which is dark. So I'm going to bring the exposure up, and I think this is supposed to be quite a sunny day anyway, so it would need to be quite bright. So I'm going to bring that exposure up, not too bright, not too dark. That's a good way to find something in between. A little bit more there. Okay, what I'm going to do, because I want it quite bright, I'm actually going to make it brighter than it probably should be. I like this nice light effect on it. But we've lost the detail in this towel, so I want to bring that down a bit. So let's use this brush, and I'll double click effect, that resets them. I'm going to bring the highlights down and the exposure down a little bit, and let's try that. I can use this mouse wheel just to have some effect. I want it fairly feathered so it doesn't look obvious. Now if I do that, it looks obvious. I've made that very dark, but I can then adjust it anyway. So maybe let's reset that. If I double click that exposure or reset it, I can bring those highlights down. I've got some detail there and probably a little bit exposure down. That's okay. I just brought the details back there. If we remove that, if I delete that, you can see that the details have gone. So I'm going to Control Z just to undo that delete, and I've got the details back there. It did spill over into here, but it doesn't actually matter because this is got quite a lot of shadows and stuff in it, so it's not a problem that it's gone over there. So I might just move that slightly less. I think that's okay. I can still see the details there. Okay, I'm going to turn that off, and I'll go to some extra color. So I think the contrast looks okay there, but let's see when we do the color. Now I've got a choice. I can make this warmer. If we look here, we've got temperature and we've got tint. If I move the temperature left, I get more blue. And it actually looks okay because I'm trying to do an effect on this. And different images will be a different way. If it's a sunny image, you might want to put yellow. This actually, I quite like that effect. Or if we go the other way, then I like that effect. I've got lots of images here and I did different effects on all of them. And because I'm doing stock photography, I want as many images as possible. So I can do one with a color like that, really warm. Do another one that's really cold, but not too cold. If I double click here on temperature, it resets it. And I can use this tint. So I could go one way, green, which I don't like really, or this way, which I quite like, is a mauve color. So I can decide which one. And on this one, I actually decided to go this way. I left the temperature as it was and moved the tint up. And it gives it a kind of mauvey feeling. But I quite like that. And already it's quite good. If I just do a snapshot of it, create that snapshot, it's this one at the bottom. And if I reset, you can already see that it's done quite a lot. I've brightened it and kept the detail in the towel and added an effect which is this tint here, which has made it quite mauve. Let's have a look. And it looks pretty good. In fact, it looks almost like it's finished there. So I just want to maybe add some clarity. And we've got clarity here. We've also got vibrance and saturation. So let's add a bit of clarity. All I'm trying to do really is bring out the details in these towels. That's the bit that's in focus. And the rest of it I'm not too worried about. Bit of vibrance. If we take it too far, we've got a bit too much color. So do it something that looks natural but added something to it. Maybe there. And do we want some more saturation? With stock images, we do like them to really stand out, but we don't want them to look fake. So it's like natural vibrance and saturation. And I think that looks natural. It looks pretty good. And I think I'm okay with that. One thing I haven't done yet is to just do these 3 buttons here. Just do these profile corrections. All that does is just takes into account the lens, that the lens will actually make the image a bit curved. So that does that. This chromatic aberration, we probably don't need to do. It's if you've got a backlight. But I'll do it anyway. It's good to put these 2 on. And it just makes sure you don't get some funny lines around some of the objects. I think that's pretty good. I will go in now and look at it 100% and just see if there's anything I'd like to do. Little bit of noise on here, which you probably can't see, but I'm just going to maybe go down to the noise and just put a little bit on there, maybe 20. To 25 is okay. What it does, it just removes the little dots that you've got. And I'll just check in the dark part that there's no color noise. I think that looks okay. I'll leave the default setting of 25 there. So it just removes any small dots that you've got. Kind of smooths them out. And I'm happy with that. I will go in using Photoshop. I'll do 2 things. One, I'll make this a bit clearer. I like Photoshop because you can do more in specific parts. So I'm just going to select this part in Photoshop that's in focus. This is the focus part, maybe a little bit here. And I'll add some sharpness in Photoshop. And I'll also just remove this part in Photoshop. But I'm not going to show you that. I'm just looking at Lightroom, how to make these images pop. And I think I'm happy with that. I will compare it with the one I did before. I'm not sure if I can do anything else. Let's just try this temperature here. If I make it go colder, no. I could actually make that a little bit warmer. That brings out this yellow as well. So that yellow comes out. I quite like that. I'm happy with that. Do I need a little bit more exposure? Not really. I'm happy with that. It really stands out now. And another thing I could actually do is to put a vignette on it. I'm not sure yet. Let's just try it. If I do it this way to the left, it darkens the outside. It does make it stand out a little bit more. Let's take it off and compare. That was before. And that was after. So I could add a little bit of vignette. The other choice would be to go the other way, to add a bit of white. But I think the dark one looks a bit better. When I add this vignette, I'll normally then just brighten the image a little bit, just to counteract the darkness there. Let's go to exposure, a tiny bit more. And maybe I'm just going to make this slightly darker, so I keep that towel, the details in the towel, and that's it. Okay, I don't normally spend that long on it. I do it quite quickly, but because I'm showing you how to do it, that's taken maybe 10 minutes or something. But normally I'll do that really quickly. And what I'll also do, I'll save that as a preset. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to compare that with the ones I did before. This is the snapshot I took. Let's do a snapshot of that. And then this is a snapshot, how I did it before. And then another snapshot there of a different way of doing it. And another snapshot there. So these are just some different ones that I did. And I actually quite like this one with the yellow here. So if I want to bring that yellow out, then I can just add some temperature here to it. So I quite like that. Slight bit brighter as well. I think that brings it as those bring the sun in. So I'll just quickly recap on what I use. I use this temperature and tint for the color. I use the auto for the contrast. I don't tend to adjust these too much unless there's some problem, the highlights and shadows. I use the clarity here to just bring out some clarity in the bits that are in focus. And I do these automatic ones here. And then anything that's lost detail, this white went too bright, then I just bring the detail back with a brush. And in this case, it was too bright, so I brought it back using negative exposure and also negative highlights. So that's it. Those are the different ones. And what I do, I save these presets. So if I look at my presets up here, these are some ones I did just from doing these here. These are all images about a spa. And after I do each one, I just save the presets. And so I can just choose them quickly then. And it's much quicker. I can do one image in a few seconds sometimes. So let's just take an image there. And some of them work and some don't for each image. So that kind of works okay. Pinky color, this says. It doesn't work so well. Orange color works okay, but probably a bit too much. But I could just pick one of these and then do some adjustments on it. Maybe change the tint. In this case, this looks better up here. Kind of looks softer and nicer that way. Or add the tint that way. Make it more country. Or change the temperature. More summery or more wintry. So that's it. Just add a preset by clicking the plus button here. And that's how to make your images pop using Lightroom.